Coming up next, I'm going to show you how to make my fluffy biscuits and sausage gravy. There's just something about the fall that just really makes me want biscuits and gravy. I don't know, maybe you too. So stay tuned and I'll show you how easy it is to make. Coming up next. Hello everyone and welcome back. If you are new here to this channel, my name is Andrea and this is Dessert First. So today we are still working on our breakfast series. Just all sorts of breakfast ideas that you can put together, sometimes in a relatively quick manner. So if you're getting ready for the holidays and you've got people coming, this is something that you can mix up for them fairly quickly and fairly easy. So actually even easier, we're making biscuits and gravy. So I enjoy biscuits and gravy. I just don't eat them very often, and my husband is not a fan of biscuits and gravy, so he didn't grow up here, so he's missing out. So if you like biscuits and gravy or have guests that may enjoy that, then stick around. I'm going to show you how easy it is to make and have them ready for breakfast. So let's get started. Alright, so let's get started with our biscuits. I've got a medium-sized bowl here, and I'm going to add 1 3/4 cup of all-purpose flour. And then I'm also going to add a 1/4 cup of cornstarch. These biscuits are going to be a little on the fluffy side. I've had the hardest time finding a biscuit recipe that I actually like. So this one actually turns out really well. So now I'm going to share that with you. So we're going to go with a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and then 1 tablespoon of baking powder. And then we're just going to mix that all up. And then I've got 1 stick of cold butter, and I've already grated it. So we're going to add that in. And if you've watched any of my other videos, you know I'm a fan of grating the butter. It's just so much easier to get it mixed in. So we're just going to kind of work this in. And you're just working it kind of between the flour and the butter, between your fingers. Okay, and then we are going to add 1 egg. Now, my mom's recipe never called for egg and biscuits, but I found that the egg just kind of helps to make it a little fluffier of a biscuit. So we're just going to add 1 egg in here. And I'm going to get a fork. that up with. And then I've got a 1/2 cup of buttermilk. All right. And I'm just going to get in here and just kind of give it a couple of turns to make sure that all the dry is mixed up. Here we go. Now we're going to put some flour on the counter here. And I am not going to roll these out. I know Mom always rolled her biscuits out, but I'm not going to do that. So I'm just kind of smashing it down a little bit. I want it to be fairly thick, so we're going to leave it about 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch thick here. And then I've got a cutter. It's actually a cookie cutter, but it'll work just fine. So it's almost, the biscuits are almost as thick as this cookie cutter here. So we're just gonna, and this is a smaller one, you could use a bigger one, but I'm just gonna use this one. And that is a nice thick biscuit. And we just wanna make sure we get as close to the edges as we can. Go. And then we're going to, as carefully as we can, just try to, without working this too much, dust some of that flour off. Just try to work this back in together. See if we can maybe get 2 more. Or not. There we go. And this little dab left, we're just going to form it into a round disc here. About as best we can. It's almost the same size. Okay. So, since my husband doesn't like biscuits, I'm obviously not going to cook all of these biscuits. So I'm going to put some of these on a tray and freeze them. So there's 6. So I'm just going to put these in the freezer like this. There's a piece of parchment paper here. Once they're frozen, then you can take these off and either put them in a Ziploc bag, or if you have a vacuum packer, you can vacuum pack them up into, you know, pouches of however many you want. So for me, I would vacuum pack, or vacuum pack 2 to a package. So we'll pop those into the freezer. And then the other two we're just going to put here, and I'm just going to let them touch. That's okay. They don't really spread. And we're going to bake these in a 375-degree oven for roughly 20 to 25 minutes. All right, so our biscuits they're getting closer. They're still about 8 or 9 minutes, give or take, left. So we're going to go ahead and get started on our sausage gravy. And I'm just using some breakfast sausage, pork sausage, but you can use whatever kind you like. If you want a spicier, I would probably stay away from like Italian sausage because it's so much more savory. Usually has a lot of herbs in there, but if that's what you like, then by all means. I'm going to use this one. It has kind of a little bit of a maple flavor to it. So, and it's a mild sausage. So really what I'm looking for is just to have sausage in my gravy. I'm not going to make sausage patties like that, but since I'm just making a small amount, I don't need a lot of sausage, so I'm just going to kind of about that much. So it's not very much. This is a, 16 ounce. So this is probably about maybe 2 ounces. So I'm just going to crumble this up and put it in my saute pan and get the heat on under it and just cook it. And then I'll package this away. One way I like to do sausage is put it in either a vacuum packer or just in a Ziploc bag, but just divide it up in smaller amounts, and then once you get it in there, just press it out so that it's thin and flat. It stores really well in your freezer and it thaws out really quick. So just a little tip there. All right, so we're just gonna cook down our sausage. And I know it doesn't look like very much. I do have the bigger saute pan, but I'm just making a small amount. So just remember, if you're feeding an army, you're gonna make a whole lot more. But for one person, this is all you will need. Alright, so our sausage is cooked and it did not render out much in the way of fat. So I'm just going to transfer it to a paper towel here. And there's a tiny bit of fat in there, but not enough to make gravy with. So I'm going to add some butter. This is just a little over a tablespoon of butter. And we're just going to melt that in there. And honestly, I've never had a recipe for gravy. Mom never used a recipe. It's really just kind of about looks and feel. So once our butter is melted, I'm just going to, this is a half a cup of flour. We are not going to use a half a cup because that would make a ton of gravy. So my heat is about between medium and low right now. So I'm just going to sprinkle some of this flour in here and just whisk it. So I'm just kind of looking, see kind of how it kind of clumps together like this. Maybe just a tiny bit more, since we're just making a small amount. my mom make the biscuits and gravy. So my job was to pour the milk. So we're just going to pour some in there, probably about a half a cup or so to start with. And we're just going to whisk this to break up the flour clumps, and you can see it's already getting thick. So we're just going to add some more. Add a little more. The key is, if you're making a lot, you want to add more fat. So whether you use butter or oil or shortening, or maybe you have bacon grease and you're going to use that. So you'll want more fat and more flour, because really you're just making a roux here. So the more flour and fat you have, the bigger batch of gravy you're going to make. Alright, so I'm just going to turn this up closer to medium. And we're going to add some salt. And you're just going to salt and pepper to your own taste. And now you just want to bring it up to where it starts to bubble, and then it will, because right now it seems a little thin, but it will thicken up. And sometimes it gets a little too thick, so. So you can see all of the bits, the sausage bits that were on the bottom of the pan have all lifted off of there. Alright. Just need to see if we might need just a tiny bit more milk, maybe just a little. At this point, you're just working on your own personal preference. I think our biscuits are ready. So I'm going to turn that heat down on low. And our biscuits are done. So you can see they got some nice height to them. So I'm just going to set them over here. And then we're going to add our sausage back in, our sausage crumbles. All right, we are ready to plate this up. All right, so at this point you could brush your biscuits with just a little bit of butter if you wanted to. It's not really necessary for biscuits and gravy, but if you were just going to have a bunch of biscuits out and then maybe have some honey or some jam or something like that, so your guests could add whatever they wanted on their biscuits. Maybe they don't like gravy, but they like a biscuit with maybe some jam or something, or some apple butter. That would be really good. Then a little bit of butter on the top of your biscuits is great. So, but these got a nice little lift to them. They got a nice golden color. So we're just going to split these in half. This was that last one that I just kind of put together on the fly there. So we'll just split that one apart. just spoon on some of this sausage gravy. I think my husband is the only man I've ever met that doesn't like biscuits and gravy. All right. There we go. You could serve this with a side of bacon or sausage or some eggs, but honestly, this really is an entire meal, or maybe 2 meals. So our other biscuits are in the freezer, and so if you're planning, because this batch doesn't make a huge amount, so if you're planning to have a lot of people over, just make double batch of your biscuits, freeze them, and then when you're getting breakfast ready in the morning, you'll just pull them out of the freezer just like you would a frozen biscuit that you get from the grocery store. Just put them on your sheet tray, pop them in the oven, and bake them off. So, and then all you have to do is just make the gravy in the morning. So very quick and easy. Or if you just want a biscuit in the morning, then you could do that as well. So alright friends, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you would like to see more like this, just go ahead and hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on another awesome video. Until next time.